You are standing outside. It is 1.7 million years ago. The sun is hammering down on the East African savanna. There is no shade. There are no trees close enough to matter. There are definitely lions, and you are completely, entirely, absolutely naked. Not naked like you forgot your jacket. Naked like there is no jacket. There has never been a jacket. The concept of a jacket does not exist yet, and won't for about 1.699 million years. And somehow, against all reasonable odds, you are fine. Here's the thing nobody ever stops to actually think about. Humans lost most of their body hair roughly 1.7 million years ago. Modern clothing, by the best evidence we have, is only about 100,000 years old. That means there is a gap of 1.6 million years, during which your ancestors were walking around the planet with essentially no fur and essentially no clothes. Through ice ages, through freezing nights on open savanna, through everything. So how did they do it? How does a nearly hairless ape with no claws, no venom, no thick hide, and no clothing survive for 1.6 million years? On a planet that will happily kill you overnight if the temperature drops far enough. The answer involves fire, fat, body lice, caves, and one of the most indirect and genuinely brilliant pieces of detective work in the history of archaeology. Let's start at the beginning. Before you can answer how we survived without fur, you have to answer why we lost it at all. Every other great ape, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, still has thick body hair. We don't. And that is weird. In evolutionary terms, fur is incredibly useful. It insulates against cold, protects against sunburn, reduces parasite load. Why would a species living in the open African savanna evolve to lose that? The leading theory is the thermoregulation hypothesis. Around 2 million years ago, our ancestors shifted from forest-dwelling primates to long-distance runners on the open savanna. They were persistence hunters. They didn't sprint after prey. They walked and jogged after prey for hours, sometimes entire days, until the animal collapsed from heat exhaustion. And the problem with that strategy is heat. Running generates enormous amounts of body heat. A thick coat of fur traps that heat. Overheat on a long hunt and you die. Or you fail, which also eventually means you die. So the species that ran cooler, that sweated more efficiently, that shed heat faster, were the species that ate more and survived longer. And the most efficient way to shed heat fast is to lose the fur and cover your skin in sweat glands instead. Modern humans have somewhere between 2 and 4 million sweat glands. That is more than almost any other animal on Earth. We are, in the most literal sense, designed to sweat. We are the sweatiest primate that has ever lived, and that is not an embarrassing fact. That is our superpower. The fur had to go so the sweat could work. But losing your fur creates an immediate and extremely unpleasant problem. Parasites, specifically. Lice. You might know that humans have 3 species of lice: head lice, body lice, and pubic lice. Head lice live in scalp hair. Pubic lice live in pubic hair. And body lice are different. Body lice do not live on skin. Body lice live in clothing. They lay their eggs in fabric, in seams, in stitching. They only come onto the human body to feed, then retreat back into the clothes. Body lice cannot survive without clothing, which means body lice could only have evolved after clothing existed. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute figured out that if you sequence the genome of body lice and compare it to head lice, which are much older, you can calculate when they diverged. When body lice became a separate species, that divergence, that moment when head lice started evolving into body lice, is the moment clothing became common enough to give lice a new ecological niche. The lice are a clock, a parasitic, itchy, disgusting clock embedded in human clothing history. And what did the clock say? Depending on the study, somewhere between 100,000 and 83,000 years ago. That is when body lice diverged from head lice. That is, by the best indirect evidence we have, when humans started wearing clothes regularly enough to create a new evolutionary pressure on a parasite. This is archaeology done through lice genetics. I will never stop finding this incredible. So the lice-ate clothing started around 100,000 years ago. Hair loss happened around 1.7 million years ago, which still leaves the question completely open. What did humans do in that enormous gap? What did Homo erectus do on a cold night with no fur and no clothes? The answer is not one thing. It is several things working together. And the first and most important is fire. Fire changes everything. The oldest confirmed evidence of controlled fire use by our ancestors is from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, dating to about 1 million years ago. But some researchers believe fire use may go back further, possibly as far as 1.5 million years, based on burnt bone and plant ash found at sites in Kenya. Fire meant warmth at night. Fire meant a sleeping circle where you could survive temperatures that would otherwise kill you. Fire meant you could camp in environments that would have been lethal without it. And crucially, fire meant community. You slept near the fire. The fire was in the middle. Everyone slept close together around it, and body heat, it turns out, is extremely effective insulation. A group of humans sleeping close together around a fire generates and retains heat in a way that a single individual cannot. The earliest human sleeping arrangements were not about comfort. They were a thermal survival strategy. The second part of the answer is body fat, and specifically the human body's unique fat distribution. Most mammals store fat in a thin layer distributed around organs, around muscle. Humans store fat differently. We have a thick subcutaneous fat layer, fat directly under the skin, all over the body. This is unusual among primates. Chimps are lean. Gorillas are lean under their fur. Humans are, comparatively, quite well padded. And that subcutaneous fat layer is a direct thermal insulator. It does not work as well as fur, but it works. It slows the rate at which your body loses heat to a cold environment. Combined with fire, combined with sleeping together, it was enough to keep Homo erectus alive through cold African nights, and even, eventually, into colder European winters. There is also the question of shelter. Not built shelter, not yet, but found shelter. Caves, rock overhangs, cliff faces that blocked the wind. These aren't impressive by modern standards. But a shallow cave that blocks the wind and has a fire burning at its entrance can be 20 degrees warmer than the open air outside. That is the difference between hypothermia and sleep. Here is where the story gets genuinely impressive, because eventually Homo erectus and later early Homo sapiens did not stay in Africa. They moved north into Europe, into Asia, into environments that were dramatically colder than anything a hairless ape evolved for. The Neanderthals, who were living in Ice Age Europe for hundreds of thousands of years, had a trick. Actually, they had several tricks. Neanderthals had a stockier, more compact body plan than modern humans. Physics works in your favor when you are stocky. A shorter, broader body has less surface area relative to its volume, which means less heat lost to the environment. They were biologically better suited to cold than we are. They also, crucially, used animal hides. Not sewn, not processed into garments the way we'd recognize, but archaeological evidence from Neanderthal sites shows cut marks on animal bones in patterns consistent with hide removal. They were skinning animals and using the hides, wrapping them around themselves. Not tailored clothes, more like a thrown-over pelt. But it worked. And then around 50 to 40,000 years ago, something changed. A tiny, thin, pointed piece of bone. The sewing needle. The oldest known sewing needles come from Denisova Cave in Siberia, dating to about 50,000 years ago. And they are remarkable not because they're old, but because of what they imply. A sewing needle means sewn clothing. Sewn clothing means fitted garments. Fitted garments means something completely different from a pelt, thrown over your shoulders. A fitted garment traps a layer of warm air against the skin. It moves with your body. It stays in place. The difference in thermal performance between a thrown hide and a sewn garment is enormous. Potentially the difference between surviving a Siberian winter or not. Some researchers have argued that the sewing needle is one of the most significant technological inventions in human history. More than the wheel, in some ways. Because the wheel only matters once you have somewhere to go. The needle allowed humans to go anywhere. It is what pushed our range into the Arctic. It is what allowed migration across the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas during a glacial period in temperatures that would be fatal without properly insulated clothing. The sewing needle colonized the planet. There is another thread in this story that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Ochre, red and yellow ochre, is an iron-rich mineral pigment. It has been found at human sites going back at least 100,000 years, sometimes much further. And for a long time, archaeologists assumed it was used primarily as body paint, symbolic decoration, art. That is probably partly true. But there is a second theory that has gained significant traction. Ochre has natural antibacterial and tanning properties. When applied to raw animal hide, it helps preserve the hide. It prevents rotting. It makes the hide more flexible, less brittle. In other words, ochre may have been the world's first leather tanning agent. The people sitting around fires in South African caves 100,000 years ago, grinding ochre into powder and mixing it into paste, may have been doing something that looked like art but functioned like industrial chemistry. Preparing hides for use, making early proto-clothing last longer, making it wearable. Here is the honest version of this story. We don't have a piece of clothing from 100,000 years ago. We will never have a piece of clothing from 100,000 years ago. Organic material does not survive that long under normal conditions. The evidence for early clothing is almost entirely indirect. The lice genetics, the ochre, the bone needles, the cut marks on hides, scrapers, the specific stone tools used to process animal skins, found at sites across Africa and Europe. Hide processing scrapers are among the most common tools found at sites dating back 300,000 years. 300,000 years of hide processing tools. That doesn't mean sewn garments 300,000 years ago. But it suggests people were doing something with hides for a very long time before the first needle showed up. The absence of clothing in the archaeological record is not evidence that people weren't making and using it. It is evidence that organic material doesn't survive. There is a difference between those two things, and it matters enormously when you are trying to reconstruct deep human history. There is one more piece of this story that almost no one talks about. When we lost our fur, we had a problem. Exposed skin is vulnerable to ultraviolet radiation. UV radiation destroys folate, a B vitamin critical for fetal development. UV radiation causes skin cancer. Our earliest ancestors, living in equatorial Africa, faced intense UV exposure every day. The evolutionary solution was melanin, dark skin pigmentation. The best current evidence suggests that the first hairless humans had dark skin, not as a racial category, as a biological response to UV exposure on a furless body in equatorial sun. Dark skin is the body's sunscreen, and we know this not just from inference. The gene variants responsible for dark skin pigmentation in modern humans can be traced back to at least 1.2 million years ago, which aligns almost exactly with the estimated timing of hair loss. The fur went away, the UV hit the skin, the melanin followed, and then, as humans moved out of Africa and into lower UV environments further from the equator, skin pigmentation lightened over tens of thousands of years because darker skin in low UV environments blocks too much vitamin D synthesis. The full range of human skin colors is an evolutionary map of where ancestors lived and how much sun they needed to survive. Every single shade a precise biological calibration. Not a hierarchy, a map. So how did ancient humans survive before clothes? They sweat their way through the African heat by losing fur that was working against them. They clustered around fires in the cold. They pressed their bodies together and shared warmth. They used animal hides long before they learned to sew them. They found caves and overhangs that blocked the wind. They developed subcutaneous fat that insulated better than it looks. And eventually, 50,000 years ago, someone threaded a bone needle and changed where humans could live forever. The human body without clothing is not a fragile, vulnerable thing. It is a precisely engineered thermal management system that ran successfully for over 1 million years before anyone thought to put a shirt on top of it. You are not as soft as you think you are. You are the descendant of naked apes who survived ice ages through intelligence, cooperation, and fire. That is not nothing. That is genuinely everything. If you want to know what else your body is doing right now that you've never thought to question, there is a lot more in this channel. The answers are usually stranger than you'd expect. See you in the next one.